I don't feel like I have a lot of time, so the stakes are high. 5:17 p.m. on Saturday, the 18th of April, 2026. And I just went for a little bike ride. It's been a crazy busy day. Like, once a month, my parents' church, they do a food distribution morning where they basically, give food away for free to anyone who wants to show up at the church between, I think they start at 7. We have to get there at 6:30, and we're some of the later people to arrive. And so we did that. Then we did a bunch of errands and stuff. And then came back and did a bunch of stuff around the house. Like, I tilled some area with new soil. My mom mowed the grass. My dad's working with a carpenter right now. Shout out to Art. Although it's not art. But, they're putting some doors in. Like, it's been a day, and a long one at that. And then tomorrow's church day, too, so there's no rest for the wicked here, my dude. If you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. But, so I just went for a little bike ride, which was fun, because I was like, well, I don't have a lot of time. But I even though I feel pretty tired, like, I feel like I just want to get out there, even if it's just for 30 minutes, just like that would be way better to spin my legs than, like, continue to think about how I probably can't go for the bike ride that I was planning on, which is like, closer to like 1.5 times longer than what I just did, this little 8-mile thing. But it was cool. I kept thinking in my head, I was like, I want to call this route the Littlest Wolf, because it's my favorite route here, because it's just so easy to get to. Like, I literally bike, like, I don't know, a mile from my parents' house, and then I get on this road that you just stay on, and there's a bunch of different alternative, like, routes that you can take from it, or you can just remain on it. It's like 11 or 12 miles depending, and then you can go all the way to Clayton, which turns it into like almost a 20-mile route. Or, as I experimented with and found out about today, you can go a different route to basically go into that general area and just do the littlest circle. And so that's what I just did. I did the Littlest Wolf, the Littlest Wolfork. It's spelled wolf fork, but I just can't imagine that there's actually another way of saying it other than woofork. So like WOFFORK. Like, the human tongue, I don't believe, can actually pronounce the word wolf fork in a very fluid way. So I don't do it. It sounds British to call it woofork. It's like, I can't think of any English places where they do stuff like that, but I know that there exists like that little twangy slang that they do with all their words, where they like combine a bunch of like consonants and vowels and stuff like that. I mean, Japanese basically does the same thing too, Anyway, it was quite a day. A lot of needfuls, a day of needfuls for sure, and not particularly restful, but I'm feeling energized from the bike ride, and I had some thoughts, and I thought, just as I feel my bike ride today was perhaps necessarily abbreviated, so too will this clip be. And so I just thought I would try to get these thoughts on the page, as it were. And we'll just basically go from there. I guess if anything, this is almost more so for me, so that Notebook LM will tell me something interesting about myself. Okay, so most recently, I guess going in reverse order, sure, that's fine. I had to make all these notes with Gemini, which I'd say is not a perfect technology yet. But it could be a large part due to me wearing the headphones that I had. They don't do very well in the wind, and it was definitely a windy ride. Anyway, just now I was crossing over 441 to come back to my parents' house. And, I've biked like so much that I have an intuitive sense of like distance and time, right? And I would never be able to do anything useful with this. It's just like, I know what I can do in response to an object that is a certain amount of like distance away, and I know how much time it will take, like I'm not claiming any kind of special ability. All I know is that I've done this a lot. I've made a lot of predictions, and I feel very comfortable that my predictions will actually describe the behavior that I will soon enact, And so I was crossing over 441, and there was this couple in a car that was like the last car, I was in the middle lane trying to turn left, and the last car coming toward me in the northbound lane, like I saw their faces before I crossed over the middle lane, and it looked like they thought that I was going to run into them, which I thought was like, at first I thought ridiculous. I was like, these idiots, like, why would I run into you on my bike? But then, because now anytime my ego shows up, there's like a little alarm bell that goes off, where when I can feel this self-satisfying smugness of like thinking that I'm better than somebody else for some stupid reason, there's like a little alarm that goes off in my head, and I'm like, uh-oh, time to re-examine that thought. And so I did, and I was like, okay, well, if I was driving and I saw someone who was coming diagonally toward me without any indication of stopping, because I wasn't stopping, I was like, okay, this car's going like a certain speed, they will pass me, and I actually don't need to slow down. And they freaked out, though. Like, I could see on their face. And again, my first thought was like, that's what stupid people do. But then I'm like, well, everyone is stupid, and I am too. And I probably would have freaked myself out biking like that. And so I went and I decided that if I ever saw them in public, which I would never be able to point them out in a crowd, I would apologize. I'd be like, hey, I realized I probably may have surprised at best you the other day, and scared at worst. I did take the opportunity to reflect on how things might have looked from your perspective, and I think that I definitely understand why you got scared, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to bike differently. I don't know if it's possible, but Dan Harmon always said that the 3 parts to a successful apology are: 1, say it with me, y'all, admission of the crime. You gotta fess up. You gotta be honest. You gotta move the ego out of the way. You have to earnestly confess to the crime. An apology is useless if any of these are done with any sort of ulterior motive, such as getting out of trouble or etc. All right, I want a little bit of chapstick for number 2. Number 2, show remorse. You have to honestly feel remorseful. Like, if you don't, then again, the apology is useless. Like, you have to find it within yourself to honestly experience the situation that the other person, and this is hard to do. I've failed at this with most people who I've ever actually aggrieved, but in this little instance, which is barely a thorn in my side, like, this is just, it's fun enough. But you do have to show actual remorse, according to what I heard from Dan Harmon. And that's difficult. But if you're honestly admitting of the crime, you probably will be able to find a way to actually show and feel remorse. And then, number 3, let's all say it one more time together: commit to change. You have to actually do something that not only acknowledges and, emotionally activates you in a remorseful way, but you have to figure out a way to do something differently. Better, all the better, if you can actually articulate that in words. All the worse if what you say you will commit to results in the necessity for another apology. Anyway, sorry y'all, didn't mean to scare you, but sometimes I just think people are just like NPCs, and I'm like, I don't even think they're looking at me, but these people were. NPCs are non-player characters. Okay, one of the reasons I didn't want to keep doing the hike was because I knew that I could, and I didn't want to indulge that. So yeah, that was a thought that I was having because I was watching the guy. I love this shirt, this Jolly Gear shirt. Shout out to Travis. Shout out to Jolly Gear. Like, I've been wearing this shirt, like, to say you're wearing a shirt nonstop, like, that sounds ridiculous. But I really have, like, I wish I had gotten one sooner. Like, it never even occurred to me, because I've had a couple of different shirts that I kind of liked for different reasons, like, for me, for a long time, it was the Columbia PFG shirts, but then they changed something at some point, and like, they got all like billowy, and I felt like I was in that episode of Seinfeld, where he's like wearing that pirate shirt or whatever. I don't think I've ever actually seen the episode, but I am a Seinfeld fan, for the record, but maybe that invalidates it. Maybe by your standards, but in terms of me, I do consider myself a fan, and I have seen a fair amount of episodes, but I don't remember the specifics of the pirate shirt one. Or maybe it's called the puffy shirt. Anyway, this Jolly Gear shirt, is just amazing. Like it addresses so many things that I've always wanted in terms of clothing. Like if you're looking at clothing for utility, especially for like outdoor utility, it's the perfect shirt. Like the fact that it's a complete button down so you can like expose your chest, which for me is like an essential thing to do, especially if I'm walking in the sun. The sun hoodie itself is amazing. How the sleeves actually allow for your hands to be protected from the sun as well. Like it's a really amazingly engineered shirt, like just very thoughtful, you know. And I did actually end up removing one of the buttons from the hand area that I was complaining about quite a few episodes ago, because I was looking at it and I was like, well, duh, like if I'm asking him to like change the design of this, why don't I just change the design of it? Like this button where it's located serves no purpose, so I should remove it. And I did, and now that part is perfect. I still think that the felt nose wiper would be a good idea. A little strip of felt on the cuff, you know, you could make it look cool. I don't know how you would, but I'm sure it's possible. Anyway, yes, so I was thinking about people, influencers, like hiker influencers, and I was just thinking about how, like, you know, I was thinking, like, I hope that they spend a lot more time, like, enjoying actually hiking, and as soon as, like, something is unenjoyable, I hope that they go get hotels. Like, you know, I was just thinking, like, my whole hike may have been very different if I had, like, an unlimited budget or a different thing that I was kind of optimizing. Like, for instance, I had met this woman early on, I forget her name, so sorry about that, but she was part of this company called Polar Steps, which is actually a pretty cool app that I checked out. They didn't have an audio component, but anyway, like, it's this way to document your travels in a map and pictographic way. So basically people can like follow along where you are, they can see your progress, and they can see the pictures that you took at certain points, right? And I think that's a really cool idea. I really liked it, but again, without me being able to do any kind of audio component, I'm just like, well, all right, well, I'm kind of out. But in any case, like she was saying that if you were able to prove, well, I should just say, at Trail Days, that company is going to be there, and they're going to potentially offer to buy a hiker who's in this raffle, like a stay. They're going to pay for all their hostel stays, all the way from wherever they are to the end of the trail, you know? And if I had that kind of a thing where like I had certified lodging every single night and I could drink beer, like that would have completely changed my whole experience of being outdoors. Because usually I have like insisted on kind of being at the lowest possible denominator of comfort possible, possibly. And yeah, I just hope that people who are more well-connected, I hope that they take advantage of that, because there before the grace of God go I, my dude. I would love to like chill and also hike really hard. I think if I knew that I was staying at a hostel every single night, I would do some huge days. Also, I mean, if I was staying at a hostel every night, I would get rid of my tent. I would get rid of a ton of stuff. Oof, hiking hostel to hostel. That would be sweet. You could be ultralight by accident. Like, it's like you are through hiking, but it's like you go hostel to hostel. I'll have to ask AI about what that would look like in terms of logistics, because that sounds pretty cool. I mean, I still don't think it would be something that I could stick to, because I'd want to do road walks, but as long as that didn't break the equation, which if I'm doing this, if I'm paying for it myself, anyway, you get the point. So yeah, one of the reasons why I didn't want to continue hiking was because I knew that I could. And I was like, man, I know that I'm the kind of person who will keep doing this even though it sucks. And I'm like, that sucks. That's a real thing that I need to acknowledge. And that's a thing that I need to definitely, like, you know, stand down. You know, like that's something that needs a leash, you know, like that, the whole thing of it, like appearing to be an honorable way of using my time, like that is not true. So anyway, made a note of that. Okay, this is like the last thought that I had when I was pulling in. So I guess this is, I guess I wrote this. I do think I was just listening to the most recent episode of the Moonshots podcast. And, you know, it's cool because I love how enthusiastic these guys are about AI. And I like that their enthusiasm, like results in them doing a ton of episodes. Like for for guys who have otherwise got things to do in their lives, like they'll do 2 or 3 episodes a week, and these guys are like, you know, anywhere between like 40 and 60, and like the fact that they're like so honestly excited about like what's going on in AI that they'll like, I don't know, it reminds me of like kids who are obsessed with basketball, and like just any opportunity that they can go out and play, like even if it's a short game, like they'll go out and they'll take advantage of that because they just love the sport so much. Like as soon as like any big news of AI drops anytime, like if I hear about it peripherally or whatever it is, I'm like, man, I can't wait till the Moonshot Mates like come out with an episode about this, because like it's going to be awesome. And so, yeah, I was thinking about like, you know, mythos again, which I do like saying mythos instead of mythos, like me as if it was MI. But, yeah, like, I do think that there's no reason that I can think of where AI wouldn't be able to nearly perfectly simulate the human experience, because again, I'm really locked on to this idea of hyperdimensional spaces at this point, like not in a concrete way, but just like kind of viewing everything through a lens where it's like we're all inhabiting, you know, the same universe. Like, and by we I mean like I'm looking at some plants right now, and a bird just flew by, and there's rocks and there's wood and there's stuff like that, and like we're all sharing space, as it were, right? But the dimensionality through which we experience the actual space that we are directly integrated with, right? Like to this point, it's non-translatable to anything outside of that space in a way like where you would understand the qualitative experience of that thing. Like again, that whole dude who wrote that book about, or that essay about like what it's like to be a bat, which I still haven't listened to the Notebook LM that I made about that, but I need to. But like, that's what I'm thinking about when I think about hyperdimensional spaces. Like I'm thinking about, okay, like I'm a human being, and as far as I know, which is probably, there's a huge chance that humans are actually the most ignorant things that exist in a sentient way on this planet, because like, you know, the burden of proof and the standard of evidence that I require to like quote unquote believe something is so high. Whereas like I feel like other things just like intuitively feel things because they physically bump up against them, and then there's no denying that physical interaction. But you know, humans, we have so many abstract things that it kind of disconnects us from a more grounded understanding of like reality, you know. Again, I'm looking at the trees and I'm thinking about how like the trees are directly connected to the dirt, and they absolutely depend on water, and like, you know, the whole cliche about like, you know, a tree is made from water and air, and that's it. Well, I guess dirt too. They keep getting more complicated as I think about it, but you know, I was initially thinking that AI, artificial intelligence, whatever it ends up becoming, if there is even a end state for it to achieve, which I would kind of doubt, but it's possible. Yeah, like, well, now I'm having a different thought. My original thought seems kind of minor comparatively. Like I was thinking that AI might actually be able to perfectly mimic all qualia, like the actual physical experience of being certain things, in a way that is inaccessible to us, which also would still probably be forever untranslatable without some sort of brain-computer interface. But now I'm thinking about how artificial superintelligence could actually occur in terms of like structure, I suppose. Again, I didn't know I was going to have such an interest in this. If I did, you know, and I have very few regrets. Like I could certainly count the number of regrets that I have in my life on like both my hands, and probably having a lot of extra fingers. But at this point, like I really regret not going into computer science. Not even necessarily because like it would give me a leg up with job searching, but if more of my foundational base was comprised of math and physics and technology, I think I would just, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, that excites me because it's like, oh, I would know things that I don't know right now. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, if you think about it though, Like the fact that I don't really know anything much about those topics and that subject means that like I'm kind of an unknown quantity in that space, because, you know, not to pat myself on the back, but the connections that I make about this stuff is like, it's not necessarily going to be the most intuitive methods of like fusing disparate points of view or something like that. Like, you know, I'm an outsider, so like the way that I view things is by definition unique, because I don't even know what the rules are. You know, I don't even know enough to know what I should or could rebel against, you know. But yeah, so yes, as for artificial superintelligence, it seems like at a certain point, if the higher dimensional spaces, it seems like those are the things that would be replicated infinitely, because if you could understand enough at a certain level of dimensional space, and by, well, I don't know, now I'm thinking about parameters versus well, what am I thinking about? Parameters. Yeah, I guess parameters. It was, yeah, I think so. I think that Mythos was trained on, was it 7 trillion parameters? I guess they probably already know this. It seems like that's the whole goal. Everything scales up, and then at a certain point, if things go well, then the thing starts to do it itself, because it already understands. It gets to a point, I would think, in terms of hyperspace, where part of its training data would actually incorporate what we're doing with it, and that would inform it to basically, again, get into that recursive self-learning loop, where it would basically be like, okay, I already know that the next version of me is supposed to be trained on 13 trillion parameters, so what could I do in order to generalize the information that I would be trained on, so that it would be irrelevant to train me on even more parameters, because it would be redundant, you know? Like, I would already, at a certain point, it's like, you have like the algorithm, you know, and it's like that, the general learning algorithm, and from there, you don't have to teach it, you don't have to pre-train things anymore. Like, you know, again, ChatGPT, like generative pre-trained transformer, you know? Pre-training is going to be a thing of the past as soon as AGI kicks off. That's actually interesting. Dang, so if I get a job at Anthropic, it'll probably only be for like a year. What's the point of a company? San Francisco will still be a cool place to be. It's a good place to spend a summer. Everyone keeps quoting Mark Twain around me, which I guess he said at some point, the coldest winter I ever experienced was a summer in San Francisco. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'll report back. I have one more note. With AI where it is, the gaps between a good and bad mathematician are negligible compared to the gap between AI and the best human mathematician. It no longer matters if you can solve a single piece of the puzzle. The most valuable asset is the ability to complete the entire puzzle. Now that these tools are available, what's the excuse? Okay. Well, I hate to say it, because I feel like it's less charismatic than it might otherwise be. But, you know, as soon as I started coding with AI, I was like, dude, this is great. Like, it's amazing. I thought doing this would never be something that I would ever experience, because it was so far outside of my wheelhouse. And it was awesome, even though I figured out like a completely unconventional way to code, which, you know, Notebook LM called, like, what did it call? Gorilla, Dark IT? I can't remember. Something, it was funny, because like the way that I used to have to code, because of not being a developer at MailChimp, was that I had to use ChatGPT on my phone, and then I would have to type in what I was trying to do, and then I would get JavaScript from my description from ChatGPT, and then I'd have to email that to myself, and then grab that JavaScript snippet from my email, put it into the developer console within Chrome, run it, see if it worked, see if it didn't, and then refine. And that's why, like, the first time I ever coded anything in my life, which was what I called the peep tool, which was just a very, very basic, like, all it does is open like 8 tabs of specific user data that people in my position would need to review in order to basically assess the supportability of an account, right? I formalized it because I was like, I hate that, like, everything is so ambiguous, you know? Like, I want to have some kind of formality. I want to have some kind of standard to appeal to. And so I coded this tool in hopes that, like, I could show it to my manager, and then we could, like, work as a team to develop, like, a formalized strategy to do what we do in a way that is reproducible. Because again, if we make a decision, it's hard to walk the other person through your logic tree, because a lot of stuff that we would do, there was no documentation, there was no formal thing, no nothing. And so yeah, so, you know, I got to a point, I have to go soon, so I got to a point where I was just like, oh, like, I don't need to learn how to code. That's actually, like, it would be a waste of time to learn that skill in terms of how it has traditionally been done. And now with Mythos coming around, and because of the high dimensional spaces, like, seeing all of these vulnerabilities that human coders had no knowledge of creating, I'm like, oh, well, I definitely don't need to be a coder now. Like, I don't need to be someone who actually pursues this in a professional, traditional way, because it's not adequate anymore. Like, the only way you're going to be able to code in the future is by using AI to make sure that all of the holes are patched before the whole thing even ships. You know, it's like, it's crazy that, but it makes total sense. Again, I was talking about those pen toys, like in the other episode. You put your face in it, and you see them at Spencer's and stuff like that. But, like, we just can't see all these dimensional spaces and these nooks and these crevices, and so we're, again, human beings. We are a liability to the technological space that we're now inhabiting with another entity. You know, like, I don't even know, my dude. It's crazy. But yeah, the gap between the best programmer in the world and me is so small compared to the gap between both of us and AI. And it's only going to get better or stronger and stronger, you know? Like, it's crazy. All right, I gotta go. Shout out to my parents. I love you. Bye.